All right. Good morning. It's time to learn and grow. I'm Alana, and I'm very, very proud to be here today with Autumn Smith. Autumn is the co-founder of PaleoValley and Wild Pastures. She has a wonderful family,
Mm.
and she's a fitness enthusiast, and she's an expert in healthy living and lifestyle. And if I'm correct, you recently got your doctorates in 2024.
I did. Yep. I'm officially a doctor of holistic nutrition. That is.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. And I'd like to start off. I know that PaleoValley and Wild Pastures does a couple things differently than other companies that I think it's food, right? Like meat sticks and protein and beef. Can you tell me a little more about what differentiates your company from others?
Yeah. Well, it was born out of a need. I had irritable bowel syndrome for over 10 years, which is essentially means they've ruled out other more serious health issues. And I had digestive issues that they didn't know the cause of. And so when medication and other interventions didn't work for me, finally, my husband decided that we should try using food as medicine. And I didn't ever believe that it'd be possible because for that entire 10-year period, they told me, it's not related to what you're eating, it's a stress-based condition. And when 30 days of dietary change changed my life, we decided to create the products that would help other people do the same thing. And most people don't know, but our diet has changed dramatically from what we used to consume for thousands of years. It was foods that came from the earth. And now 67% of our children's calories and 58% of adult calories are ultra processed foods that our genes don't really know what to do with. They're just have never really encountered in amounts that we're consuming today. So our products are whole foods. We do a lot of animal-based nutrition, which is just grass-fed and finished beef, truly pastured pork and chicken. And I can tell you what truly pastured and 100% grass-fed and finished means and why that's different later. And then we usually, when it comes to like our meat sticks, we don't add sugar, MSG, we don't add seed oils, we don't have grains, we don't have gluten. We have no unnecessary additives. It's just food in its the most natural state possible with the highest quality ingredients. And we prioritize the health of humans and the planet in our sourcing. So that's what makes it us different. And regenerative, Wild Pastures is actually a regenerative meat delivery service. Now, regenerative just means ranchers and farmers who are actively making the land better. It's beyond organic, it's different than it's grass-fed. It means we're taking a plot of land from one state, usually a degraded state, to a more fertile or vibrant state. And we only source from American regenerative farmers because 75% of even the grass-fed meat in America is from another country. But we want to create a really vibrant, sustainable, domestic food supply because I think that's what's best for Americans and for American soil and farmers and ranchers.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. A little earlier, you mentioned ultra-processed foods. Can you give a couple examples?
Yes. Okay. So unfortunately, it's what most people are consuming: chips, cookies, crackers, even bread, soda, right? Granola bars, all of these
Oh
foods.
no.
I know. I mean, so there are different levels. Anything that, you have like 20 different ingredients that you can't pronounce, something that doesn't, the foods you should be focusing on will have one ingredient. Apples, bananas, right? They are beef, they're almonds, they are just whole foods. Anytime you get into this litany of ingredients and it doesn't look anything like it used to when it was grown from nature, that's an ultra processed food.
Got it. What about organic food? You did mention that earlier. What's the difference between organic food and then non-organic food?
Yeah, if you've seen any of those analyses, like the Environmental Working Group does some of these, organic is going to be grown without the use of certain pesticides, glyphosate being a major herbicide that is sprayed, tens of thousands, I think actually hundreds of thousands of pounds of glyphosate are used in America. And it's been, the International Agency for Research on Cancer believes it is a probable carcinogen, something that probably causes cancer. The dose makes the poison, right? So having really high levels in our food supply, in our water, in our land, that's when it gets really dangerous. And that's only one. There are so many different kinds of pesticides, atrazine, all of these different pesticides can be used in our foods. And so if you're going to choose organic, it will be grown without those types of pesticides and other chemicals that a lot of people want to avoid today. They've found in research that kids who have more pesticides in their urine, for example, probably a higher level of exposure, might have learning issues, ADHD, and that definitely when you go to an organic diet, you find the levels of pesticides in the urine are reduced. So for me, it's something I really want to avoid, pesticides in your food. Now, when you're looking at animal products, that's a little bit different. You can have organic beef. That's not necessarily the same as grass-fed and finished beef, because organic cows, well, they won't have the pesticides used in the growth of their corn and soy. They can still be eating grains like corn and soy. And they're ruminants, so primarily you want cows on pasture. It's going to lead to a different fat profile at the end of the day. But so you want to choose organic because it's going to avoid the use of chemicals and pesticides in animals. In meat, I think we can go a step beyond that whenever possible, organic or grass-fed and finished. But yeah, I think those are the main differentiators.
Interesting. I didn't know any of that.
Oh,
Another thing, another before that, you mentioned seed oils, and I hear my mom because she's into health, she's a nurse. She always talks about how seed oils are bad, but they're used everywhere and they're hard to avoid. What are seed oils and how do they affect us?
Alana, this is such a good question. And it's something that is, I mean, only like 12 years after we've started talking about it, it's hitting mainstream. So back in the 1900s, when Americans were arguably a lot healthier than we are today, almost all of the fats in our diet came from animal fat. Beef tallow is beef fat, right? Lard from pigs, schmaltz from chickens, butter, ghee. These are animal fats. These were what we were consuming in the 1900s. Then around 1910, after we learned how to hydrogenate oils, cottonseed oil was turned into Crisco. And that became kind of the first iteration of what's a hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated, and a hydrogenated oil. So that, and this wasn't because people thought it was healthier. This was because William Procter and James Gamble had a surplus of cottonseed oil. It was like kind of like a byproduct of other products they were making, and they didn't know what to do with it. So they thought, well, let's try and make money off of it. They tried to feed it to animals. It didn't work well. And so they figured out a way to feed it to humans instead. Now, ever since we got Crisco, which was in its original formulation, 50% trans fat, which we know kills hundreds of thousands of people, it's now banned in our food supply. But there have been other seed oils, cottonseed, corn, canola, sunflower, safflower. These are the major seed oils that are literally in every ultra processed food almost that you're going to find. Literally now, today, about 60% of America's calories come from seed oils, and far fewer from animal products. And as you might know, rates of disease are going up. And so even McDonald's used to cook their French fries in tallow. Then in the 1980s and the 1990s, people started to fear saturated fat, which we now know is not dangerous. It's not always as dangerous as people thought it was. And so they took out tallow and they started using these seed oils. And we know that these seed oils oxidize, meaning when they interact with oxygen, they create like inflammatory byproducts and they can create oxidative stress. They even like the clothes of the people who work around seed oils, like in fast food restaurants, they can spontaneously combust. They're highly reactive. And so when we eat them, our fats become our cell membranes. So all of our cells have membranes, and these fats, depending upon what we eat, become part of our cell membranes. And so when we have high levels of seed oils in our diet, we're going to have high levels of omega-6 fatty acids. And those are the polyunsaturated, highly oxidative seed oils that many people believe are one of the underlying factors in maybe appetite dysregulation, inflammation, oxidative stress. If anyone is interested, there's a really cool book about this. Well, two books. Dr. Kate Shanahan has written extensively on seed oils. She's kind of the OG in the seed oil. I mean, she's been talking about this for over 10 years. And then there's a really new one by Dr. Anthony Hulbert called Omega Balance, and it'll teach you. There's also Dr. Chris Knobe, and but what they've said is this is the single largest dietary change that we've ever had, and if we can go back to eating animal fats, traditional animal fats, I think people would be a lot healthier and would avoid some of the inflammation and the oxidative stress. Because what happens in those cell membranes, the cell membranes create signals that affect the rest of your body. The signals from omega-3 fatty acids, they turn off inflammation, and the signals from omega-6 fatty acids, which are found in high levels in seed oils, they can turn up the volume, or they can make the inflammation worse. So that's maybe more information than you wanted. But that's, seed
No,
oils
not at
are,
all.
they're ubiquitous in our food supply.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned a couple different types of seed oils. There was the canola, safflower, sunflower, and
Mhm.
then a couple different others. Are those kind of all the same, or are they made out of different material?
Yeah, they'll be made out of corn oil is made out of corn. Canola oil is made out of rapeseed. Soy is made from soy. And yeah, they will have slightly different levels of omega-3s, omega-6s. Every type of fat we eat is actually not one type of fat. It's a combination of fats. So they'll all probably contain a little saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. But what makes them, seed oils is, they're from seeds, right? We typically think of them as vegetable oils, but they're really made from seeds. They're made in this highly processed format where you're deodorizing them, high heat, pressure, nickel. There's just a lot of different, it's highly, highly intensive process. And then they contain a lot of omega-6 fatty acids, which I was talking about. So butter, tallow, coconut oil, these are going to have higher levels of the saturated fats. Saturated fats are more stable under heat. And the polyunsaturated fats, they're going to be more oxidized. And so these seed oils, they typically have higher levels of the polyunsaturated fats. Small differences. Canola oil is going to have a few more omega-3s than the other ones. I believe corn oil is going to have the highest levels of omega-6s. So if that's what you're thinking about, maybe one to avoid. But basically, if you go out to eat at a restaurant, you're going to have seed oils, crackers, chips, even healthy products, right? They're going to use sunflower oil. Might be better. I don't know. It depends on the criteria, but they all essentially can change the fats in your cell membrane. And you want to keep a balanced level of omega-3 to omega-6 fats. It's one of the things I don't think most people understand about our diet that I think is really powerful. You can eat, and if you have omega-3s and 6 in balance, you might have a lower level of inflammation in your body. But today, Americans have 20 times more omega-6s than omega-3s. And omega-3 fatty acid deficiency, like found in fish, for example, or nuts and seeds and leafy greens, that deficiency of that type of fatty acid kills up to 90,000 Americans every single year per Harvard research.
Wow, that's a lot. And then when you went from 20 to 20 times, I was like, whoa, okay,
Yeah, I
got
mean
it.
it's a huge change, and we don't even really. How much do you know about omega-3 fats?
Not a lot.
Not a lot, exactly. And I think it's one of the things we need to be focusing on because omega-6s in our diet are so high. And when you have too many omega-6s, it creates a hard scenario for our body to create those omega-3s. So it like knocks them out of commission, so to speak. So we really need to be emphasizing omega-3s in our diet, especially for young
Got it.
athletes and young developing brains. They're really important for cognitive development, learning, all the things that you need to be doing right now.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I've seen people cook with these different types of seed oils. I've seen canola oil and things like that in people's pantries. So I know
Mhm.
that people not only digest them outside of their house, but they cook with it also. What do
Yeah.
you think would be the most accessible, cheapest, good type of cooking oil that people could get access to?
Yeah, I think tallow. Tallow
Tallow.
would be fat. And you know what? It wasn't popular. I just played at our team meeting. It was a news clip where Callie and Casey Means, I don't know if you've heard of them, but Callie Means is on a news show recommending, I think Shake Shack just went back to using tallow. Restaurants are going back to using tallow. Tallow's not more expensive, right? It's not really a hard thing to make, like a hard shift to make. because it is affordable, it lasts a very long time, and it's a far more stable cooking oil. So our company makes one. There's many companies that make tallow these days, so you can find it pretty readily as well. If you're gonna,
Got it.
beyond that tallow, I also like to cook with avocado oil is a great choice. Coconut oil is also a good choice. Butter, I like butter, a good grass-fed butter. And sometimes if it's for low heat, I really like a good extra virgin olive oil. It's nice too.
Got it.
Those would not be considered seed oils.
Got it. That makes sense.
Mhm.
So I know Shake Shack and then a couple different companies have been gone to using tallow, right?
That's right. And we have a burger restaurant in Boulder. I don't know if you know that, but we opened it about 2.5 years ago, and we do our fries in tallow. And when we opened, we were like the only restaurant doing it. And so it's really cool to see another company making the shift. And I think it will only happen more and more and more as people start to understand that we probably messed up taking seed oils and replacing them, the animal fats, with seed oils in the first place.
Got it. If I'm correct, I think you mentioned that it's not exactly cheaper to buy the seed oils, right?
No,
Uh,
yeah, because they store longer, and you can use them. So no, it's really not.
okay, got it. Because I was like, if there's no maybe price difference, if that's what the companies are worried about, then why use seed oils? Well, that's an interesting point. Thank you. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to circle back to regenerative farming because I'm really interested in that. I know a lot of other companies don't do that, and like you mentioned, it's basically um, upgrading the soil, maybe? Could you put
Yeah.
it like that?
Yeah, because there's different about 2/3 of our soil has been depleted. So that thin layer of topsoil we have grows, over 95% of our calories. And for the last 10,000 years, we have been living in this extractive relationship with the earth, right? Where we are just taking the nutrients, taking the minerals, taking the biology out. And that's why these big areas you'll see are desertified in Africa, in Asia, and these areas used to be our more fertile lands, but we've just essentially totally devastated them. Now, regenerative agriculture is a type of agriculture where farmers and ranchers are looking at a plot of land, they're measuring, soil biology, they're actively restoring that. A lot of times using animals, which runs counter to a lot of what you hear in the mainstream, that animals are really bad for the land. That's not true, especially when you use them in highly managed ways. They can absolutely be the solution that we need, because essentially they're peeing and they're pooping on the land, and that's adding that fertility back in, because the fertility, it starts with the life in the soil. In a teaspoon of soil, there's more microorganisms than there are people on the planet in healthy soil.
Wow.
We've turned that soil into dirt, into dust. And that's what we need to fix if we're going to see our future generations, like yourself, able to grow their own food. People have estimated 60 years left, 80 years left. No one really knows how much time we have. But what we do know is the current way we're doing agriculture cannot continue, if because we'll just continue to deplete what we've already depleted, and we have 1/3 left. So we have to turn that around. So there's a lot of different principles. Context is the most important one. You can't practice regenerative agriculture in the same way in all the different areas, because you have to be paying attention. There's different levels of water. Can animals live there? And so on and so forth. You also want to have ground cover, right? Because a lot of times what we do is we grow a crop in the ground for a few days a year, maybe 100 days, 80 days of the year, and then we leave it bare. But when the soil is left bare, then it can oxidize, and it's not teeming with life anymore. And then we want to get the root systems, it's living roots, it's creating as much growth and in those plants as possible. That growth in the plants actually use photosynthesis to take carbon out of the air and to store it underground. Then we also want to integrate animals, because like I said, animals are our natural fertilizers. They come in, they pee, they poop, they disturb the soil, they create little hooves, and then that leaves area for water to come in and seeds to germinate. And we also want to integrate insects, dung beetles, earthworms. These are all really great signs of a healthy ecosystem. So lots of different principles that just essentially restart the cycles of nature, because what we've done in growing a lot of monocrops like corn and soy, and taking animals out of these diversified farm systems and putting them into factory farms, is we've created these really like monoculture artificial systems. And that's not how nature works best. Nature works best with diversity. And so we need to bring all of that back to create healthy, fertile soil. And regenerative agriculture is that movement. That is at its heart what it's trying to do, is just make every plot of land better over time.
Got it. So basically, we're helping the earth and ourselves become healthier.
Yes. And I don't know how people don't realize that we are the same, right? We're the same. We cannot destroy Earth and then expect us to be healthy, right? We are eating the food. We need the food that comes from the earth. And right now, our food is at the lowest levels of nutrients ever recorded. And it's not because the nutrients aren't in the soil. It's because that biology, the microbes, all of that stuff that comes back to life when you have animals on the land and you're treating the land properly, they're a bridge between the nutrients, like the minerals in the soil, and the plants that need them. So if we don't have that biology, the biology serves as like a taxi. And when plants use photosynthesis, about 30% of the carbon they create goes to feed these microbes. And so if we can, that explosion of life that you see above the soil, it starts with an explosion of life below the soil. So what we need to do is stop using chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides that kill the biology, and start using animals, compost, crop rotations, all of these different regenerative practices that will just build that life underneath the soil so that we can continue to grow healthy food and have a healthy ecosystem. It also improves diversity, right? That's another reason that we have so many outbreaks and food related issues, is because, again, we're trying to grow one thing on a plot of land, and that makes the land, the crops, the animals very vulnerable. Because if one disease comes in and they're genetically similar, they can wipe it all out, right? And then all of a sudden we're not growing food. But if we have a diversified farm where there's goats, there's pigs, there's chickens, there's corn, there's soy, there's wheat, there's bees making honey, that's going to be a healthy, versatile, and not a vulnerable system.
Got it. Thank you so much for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So aside from beef and farms and things like that, I know that my family tries very hard to store our pantry with, healthy things, so healthy snacks, fruit bars, meat sticks, and things like that. I've learned and I've noticed that, there's a difference between, you can tell the healthier snacks and then the more unhealthier snacks. I know there's a couple misconceptions that I don't really understand. One of those is sometimes both the healthy and the quote unquote unhealthy snacks have these things that say natural flavors and natural this and artificial that. And I'm interested in as to what that is and how it affects us.
Yes, great question. So the problem with natural flavors is you don't know what's in there, right? You can contain up to 100 different ingredients and processing agents. And unfortunately, the company doesn't have to disclose what those are. And unfortunately, the safety of all of the ingredients in our food supply, many times the companies that are using themselves and stand to profit from them, they're the ones doing the testing and determining whether or not these are safe, right? Some of them too have been giving what's called GRAS status, or what we believe this status that says they're safe. For example, like citric acid. A lot of people think citric acid comes from lemons or limes, but most of it actually today comes from something called manufactured citric acid. And that's a process that involves black mold fermenting like a genetically modified corn to create citric acid. And then yes, the mold and things are purified out. But there's even been a paper that case study paper with 4 different people who have been noticed that they have reactions to manufactured citric acid, but not when they eat lemons or limes. So all I'm saying is a lot of these ingredients, they're highly processed. They're not always what you think. And many of the manufacturers don't have to let you know what's in. So natural flavors is one of those things that can contain up to 100 different types of ingredients and processing agents. So you don't, unfortunately, really know. It's something that I definitely avoid. We have organic flavors in our products. Now, that's something that comes from like a fruit or vegetable extract. That's different. You can't use those processing agents that could potentially be deleterious. So organic flavors is not the same as natural flavors, but natural flavors is something, if you're sensitive and if you're really wanting to clean up the diet, I would avoid it because there's just no way of knowing what exactly is in there.
Got it. And then is that different from artificial flavors, or is that kind of the same thing?
Well, artificial flavors, I mean, yeah, that would just mean they're artificially derived. And rather than coming from a plant or an animal or a natural source, they would just be something that was created in a lab. Something that I would definitely avoid. There's a lot of times I've heard people say that they think this obsession with flavoring has created an expectation of really intense flavors that natural foods simply can't mimic. And so if you're someone who likes to get back to nature and to get back to a whole foods diet, I would avoid artificial flavors because I think that it could kind of hijack your taste buds. And also, again, you don't really know how artificial flavors are made, what's involved in the processing. There's just kind of like a wall that you can't really understand necessarily just by looking at the label.
Got it. That makes sense. So basically, try to avoid those.
I would. I mean, yeah, it depends on your priorities, but it's not something that I consume. It's not something that we're going to put in our products because our goal is to get people back to whole foods. So if that's your goal, then I would avoid it.
Got it. I know that PaleoValley sells a couple of different kinds of supplements, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering what supplements. No, go ahead.
Oh no, you. It's okay.
Okay. I'm wondering what kind of supplements you think maybe just maybe someone who doesn't work out that much or someone who does, maybe an athlete. What kinds of supplements should they focus on for, I guess, just maybe immunity and well-being?
Yeah. Okay, so the supplements that we make are actually food. They're actually whole food supplements. And this is different because when you look at the research around synthetically derived nutrients, vitamin E, for example, calcium, and that's not always synthetically derived, but it is isolated, like not in the food matrix. They don't always improve health, right? The same way that a food does. In some cases, they actually increase the risk of disease. Certain B vitamins have been found to do that, beta carotene, and in certain populations. So we believe that we don't understand nature as well as, I think Mother Nature did it right the first time. And I think food is always the way to get your nutrients whenever possible. And so the first supplement we went into was organ complex. And that's simply because organ meats, they're the most nutrient dense foods in the world, high in vitamin A and B12. In fact, the most natural, highest and richest source of both of those nutrients. Vitamin A is very important for immunity, the health of your skin, and reproduction, and your eyes. And liver has retinol, which is the active form of vitamin A, and you don't get that from like sweet potatoes and carrots. That's a precursor to retinol. So that's why I think it's so important for immunity. The organ complex is going to be great. B12 is really important for the health of your brain and the health of your nervous system. And then it also has highly bioavailable iron and zinc, and also copper. And those minerals, many of us are mineral deficient. And I've seen so many people with iron related issues who take this complex and then feel revitalized. They can finally get their iron levels into the normal range. And some doctors in the 1930s actually got a Nobel Prize for the finding that beef liver could actually cure pernicious anemia. So if you're an athlete prone to anemia or just a young woman, I think the organ complex, it's just grass-fed heart, liver, and kidney put into a capsule. I can't eat organ meats. I know some people can do it. It's not going to work for my palate. And so that's why we did that. So I think the organ complex is great for young developing women who want healthy hormones, who want healthy iron status, who just want more energy and vitality. And this is nature's multivitamin. So that's why we made our organ complex. My other favorite is our vitamin C. Vitamin C, I'm a little bit obsessed with the topic because I think it's underrated. There's so many really cool pieces of research that show a lot of people are deficient who don't know it. And vitamin C is really essential for collagen. So I don't know if you've seen people taking collagen, tendons, ligaments, hair, skin, nails. It's like So much of our body is made out of collagen, especially if you're an athlete. If you're tearing down your body, you're going to want to be consuming vitamin C, copper, and collagen on a regular basis. Vitamin C is also essential for the health of your immune system, obviously, and the health of your brain. Now, 90% of the vitamin C made in America is made from genetically modified corn, and it contains one compound. It's called ascorbic acid. Now, that's technically vitamin C, but it's not vitamin C in the context of the whole food matrix with the bioflavonoids, ascorbinogen, other compounds like rutin that also have benefits all their own. And so we created a whole food vitamin C. There's certain pieces of research that also show that vitamin C in the synthetic isolated form, it doesn't reduce inflammation and oxidative stress in the same way that vitamin C does from whole foods. Now, the thing I want young people to know is vitamin C should be taken in divided doses. So I hope that you all have fruits and vegetables throughout the day. It's going to last about 2 to 4 hours in your blood. And then you're not going to have any more vitamin C because we lost the ability to make it as mammals. So consuming it regularly throughout the day or having a whole food vitamin C that you're taking throughout the day. I also give it to my little guy in the morning. First thing, it helps your brain. It helps with focus. It helps immunity. It's going to help your skin. It's going to help you heal wounds faster. So vitamin C, and so many people are deficient and they don't even know it. And if you like are brushing your teeth and your gums are bleeding or something, that could be related to a vitamin C deficiency. And then there's other
Got it.
ones too. Do you want me to talk about any other ones?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay, the other,
Yes, please.
I already told you, there's so many things. As young athletes, young people, omega-3 fatty acids is really important. Now, some of the research around fish oil, if you don't like to eat fish, you have a few options. You can do fish oil, which some of it's good, some of it's not as good. Research is mixed around the benefits. So what we did is we created a product from fish roe. Do you know what fish roe is?
Are those the eggs?
That's right. You're so good. You're so smart. Yes, it's the fish eggs. And the cool thing about fish eggs is not enough people eat it. Caviar, sometimes it can be really expensive. But what we do is we take it from cod, fish eggs from cod, and these are highly potent source of omega-3s and other nutrients like B12. The best part is they contain a type of omega-3 that's really bioavailable, especially for the brain. So not all omega-3s gain access to the brain in the same way. But if you're wanting to take an omega-3 that could potentially benefit your brain in the most significant way, I think fish eggs are a really great thing to do. Fish eggs also will, like I said, help balance that omega-6 to 3 ratio, potentially lower inflammation. There's something called the omega-3 index. And I don't know if there's a lot of people watching your channel that are athletes, but if there are young athletes, I think this is really cool for people to understand. So it's looking at the amount of omega-3s in your red blood cells. And what they found, it's kind of interesting. In Japan, people who have more omega-3s, for example, researchers suggest they live up to about 5 years longer. So they have about a 10 for their omega-3 index is around a 10. The average here in America is around a 4. And so if you ever want to just kind of like optimize your health, you can take a test. It's not very expensive. It's just the omega-3 fatty acid index test. I think it's like $50 maybe, and then improve the level of omega-3s in your red blood cells. So mine lives at around 8. Some people try to get all the way up to 10, but many people believe this marker is as good as something like testing your cholesterol in terms of determining how you're going to age and the level of inflammation in your body. So I think it's a really exciting biomarker that not enough people are talking about. And again, if you're a young athlete and you're using your body, I think omega-3 status is something that you'd really benefit from paying a lot of attention to. Oh, and one
Got it.
more, mushrooms.
Go ahead.
Do you use mushrooms?
Yes.
You do. What kind of mushrooms do you take?
I think, oh, I don't, do you mean cooking or as a supplement?
As a supplement.
I don't think, or I don't take any mushrooms as a supplement. My first thought was like cooking mushrooms. In that case, we use like shiitake mushrooms, but no, tell me more.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, and this is something, there's not a lot of research been done in children, but as you age and mature and your parents and you can look through the research. So medicinal mushrooms like cordyceps, for example. I remember there's a story and I can't remember the sport, but I feel like it was track and field. where the athletes were using cordyceps mushroom and they performed so well, people thought they were actually doping or using like enhancement drugs, but it was just their cordyceps. Now, cordyceps is a mushroom. It's kind of gnarly, but it like grows on caterpillars. Um, but it's known for increasing ATP production. Now, ATP is like the currency in your body. It's going to create more energy. And honestly, when I take cordyceps, I feel so invigorated. So for athletes, cordyceps mushroom is a great way to go. For people looking to improve their brain function, lion's mane mushroom is a great one. In clinical trials, a small Japanese trial, they actually reversed mild cognitive decline with lion's mane mushroom. There's other mushrooms called like shiitake and maitake. Those are great for your immune system. And there's also one called reishi, which I really love because it's basically what helps us kind of all chill out. It's like supportive of sleep and a healthy stress response. I've even heard this that there's something called reishi babies. And again, I'm not suggesting you do this, but people who have a lot of reishi mushroom when they're pregnant, and again, you need to make sure that you're doing your own research there, their babies come out far more calm because it is just one of those supplements that support sleep. Now, the supplement we made is different than most because a lot of these mushrooms are grown on a grain substrate, rice, oats. In America, that's typically how it's done, but then it's not able to be separated from the oats and the grain. So up to 40 or 50% of a mushroom product, a traditional one, can just be grain. And so that waters down the more beneficial compounds like polysaccharides, triterpenes, and all of these other super beneficial compounds in mushrooms. So we just do standardized fruiting body extracts. Fruiting body is the actual mushroom. Mycelium is the root structure that's grown on the grains. Most supplements are actually from the mycelium, but we make them from the fruiting body, and it's a supplement called Neuro Effect.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome because I have heard and maybe not taken but eaten shiitake and maitake, and then I've heard of the lion's mane and cordyceps, so that's awesome.
Good.
Um, where might someone be able to find all these? Is there a specific company, your company, that will be able to find these at?
Yeah, PaleoValley.com. You can find them. There's a lot of people doing, various types of supplements. There aren't a lot of companies doing strictly whole food supplements. I think if you're really interested in that concept and it resonates with you, PaleoValley is almost the only one I know that does all of their supplements in whole food form.
Got it. And then one last thing about maybe like an athlete's diet. I know you were talking about so whole foods and then supplements. Is there anything else I'm missing that maybe you could add to kind of get the full properties?
Absolutely. So if you're an athlete, you're breaking down your muscle and your body. And I would just highly emphasize protein. I would emphasize fiber. I would emphasize just clean carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, sweet potatoes. But I would make protein a significant part of almost every meal, especially post-exercise. You don't need as much protein as an adult, and I think protein becomes even more important as you age. But I would definitely stick to as many whole foods as possible. I would try to get some collagen in there too. I don't know if you do any type of bone broth. Do you?
Sometimes. I have done that before.
Yeah, and now this is important because we don't eat nose to tail anymore. A lot of Americans are just eating the muscle meat. And the muscle meat in the future, we won't be talking about protein as if it's one thing. We'll be talking about the individual amino acids. There's 20 of them that live in protein because each one has a different benefit, right? Leucine is going to be really important for building muscle. You're going to find that in chicken, turkey, and especially in a whey protein. So if you're a young athlete, maybe you want to emphasize those. Then there's an amino acid called glycine. That's found in bone broth. Now that's better for turning off inflammation, for helping your brain function optimally, for repairing your collagen, your tendons, your ligaments. And so I think it's important to diversify your protein sources and not only stick to muscle meats, but also add in that collagen. I think that will just help you keep your ligaments, your bones, your muscles healthier as well. I also, I think that a lot of young people undereat fruits and vegetables in particular. And so I would do as much as you can to emphasize that. And fish. Fish is my last, like I said, omega-3 fatty acids. I think if you can start eating oysters, salmon, herring, if you can get fish in your diet, I think that's going to go a long way for keeping you really healthy.
Got it. Thank you. So that kind of outlines the whole diet then. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, in the morning, you know what we make our little guy do? I'll just tell you what we make our little guy do. And he's going to be 10 in May. In the morning, we just have him pick a protein source, right? And then usually a fruit. Like, so what his breakfast looks like a lot of times is sausage and blueberries. We've also been making this buckwheat, and we mix buckwheat and then a little, which is actually a seed. It's not even a grain, but it's really nice and digestible. So buckwheat, and then our whey and our collagen, and a few nuts and seeds for something more like a porridge. And then his lunch, he gets to do what he wants because he's at school, but it's usually something like chicken, stir fry, vegetables. And then we have a really high quality, you know, when he comes home and has a snack, I try to get the fruits and vegetables out as often as I possibly can. We do our beef sticks, some sort of like healthful superfood bar. And then dinner is usually a high quality animal product, some sweet potatoes, and fruit for dessert. So I think that's ideal scenario. It's not how most kids eat today. And don't beat yourself up if your diet's not perfect as a child, right? I think we're all doing the best we can. I think children are resilient. I ate terribly when I was a child. I ate terribly. I think I wish I had taken control a little bit earlier because I think I would have felt so much better. But yeah, start wherever you are. We don't need perfection here, just as many whole foods. Sometimes for people, it's easier just to focus on, hey, I want to get 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Just start there. If you don't want to subtract things, just start focusing on which things can I add. Can I add more protein? 10 grams of protein at least at every meal and snack. So if you want to focus, if that is a better approach, something like that could work too.
Got it. That makes total sense. And then, yeah, I guess one final thing. Is there any projects or things that you'd like to announce that Paleo Valley has been working on or is working on or just came out?
Ooh, well, I did do a docu-series that's called Rethink Meat. I don't know have you seen that, Alana?
Not yet. No.
Okay, so if you're interested in regenerative agriculture, it's an 8-part series, and each episode is around 20 to 30 minutes, but it takes you from why did we start fearing meat, which is a really fascinating story that has a lot less to do with science than you'd think. It has to do with religion, corporate interests, all these other things. That's episode 1. Episode 2 is about saturated fat and cholesterol. Are they really dangerous? And red meat. And I've interviewed 55 different experts. And so you get to hear it from the experts' mouths, not my own. Episode 3 takes you through the history of meat consumption, why it's important, the 3 reasons it's kind of irreplaceable in our diet today. 4 is about vegan diets, the necessary nutrients that are often missing, and especially when it comes to childhood development, pregnancy, babies. That's why I really wanted that episode to be out, because I don't want to tell everyone what to do, but I want people to understand the risks associated with vegan diets or diets without meat. And then episode 5 gets to your favorite part, environmental myths around meat. Episode 6 is all about factory farms versus regenerative ag. Episode 7 is about my dissertation, where we looked at, does the nutritional composition of meat change based on if it comes from a factory farm or regenerative ag? And then episode 8 is just all about labels. How do you identify truly healthy meat? And you can find that on the Wild Pastures official YouTube page. But we also have a lot of great new products coming. I'm drinking this savory bone broth right now. We have a chocolate bone broth that my little guy loves and has every day. That's a very sweet flavor, but we are also coming out with more savory flavors that you can make soups or stews with. And just lots of other products in the works. We are always coming out with more products. And so you can join our email list or just peruse our website to find out about that.
Awesome. That series sounds so valuable. I'm for sure gonna look up
Yeah.
right away. I'm like really excited right now. That sounds awesome.
I'll send it to you, Alana. I'm super excited about it too. I was expecting to get a lot of hate and pushback, and it's all been really positive. And we worked on it for 2 years. And if someone is into fact checking, below in the description, you'll find a link where every reference is time stamped. So every claim we make, there's a timestamp and there's an original reference. So you can do your homework if you want.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
And then as the for sure final question, well, actually first, I love all that you're doing and I really admire your dedication. I love all your products. I know my mom is like in love with them. We have a couple stored in our pantry. Thank you so much for coming on to make the time. And then as a final question, who do you think I should invite to come and learn and grow with me next?
Oh, I like that, Alana. Well, first of all, let me just say how impressive you are. From the first time I met you, just thoroughly impressed with your maturity and your dedication, your hard work and your ethics. So thank you for having me be here. Gosh, who next? There's so many people. If you're really interested in regenerative agriculture or plant-based diet, there's a woman I love named Jane Buxton. She wrote the book Plant-Based Con, and it's all about the importance of kind of meat in the diet, why going plant-based isn't good, and especially for younger generations. So I think Jane Buxton, I love her. Then there's also so many great farmers like um, I don't know if you know Dr. Alan Williams. He's wonderful. Alan Savory. Have you ever heard of Alan Savory?
No, I haven't.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you. So Alan Savory, he originally believed animals were causing environmental destruction, and when he lived in Africa as a rangeland ecologist, he and his colleagues they decided that they needed to shoot like 40,000 elephants. And what they found was when they did, the land got worse. And so he has dedicated his whole life. I think he's around 85, 86 now. And there's a YouTube video out there that he's done with millions of views, like 12 million views, where he realized animals were essential for the health of the ecosystem. And he's created a system called holistic management. He is one of the wisest, most wonderful people I've ever talked to. And so if you want to know how animals can improve the environment from somebody who has studied it his whole life, Alan Saber would be an amazing guest. I can introduce you if
Awesome.
you want me to.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, that sounds so interesting.
Mhm.
Anyways, thank you so much for making time and coming on, Autumn.
Yeah.
And we'll see where this goes next. Thank you.
Thanks, Alana.